Hi there, I'm Logan Medish, and this is High Caliber History. Just as we continue to try to perfect projectiles in the 21st century, the same thing was true back in the 19th century. Buck and ball allowed the shooter to have multiple projectiles per shot at their disposal. In theory, this improved the likelihood of hitting your target, but it wasn't always the case since the projectiles were fired from a smoothbore barrel that did nothing to keep a tight pattern. Rifled muskets combined long barrels with rifling to produce a very accurate weapon. The likelihood of hitting your target with a .58 caliber or larger projectile fired from your Civil War era weapon was much greater than that of the smoothbore muskets in the previous eras. Despite the guns being more accurate, they were still cumbersome and time-consuming to reload. Consequently, a man's effectiveness could only be measured by how fast he was able to fire and reload. If someone could find a way to fire multiple well-aimed projectiles from each discharge of the weapon, then you could increase the effectiveness of each soldier. Enter Ira and Reuben Shaler of New York and Connecticut, respectively. On August 12, 1862, they received a patent for an improvement in compound bullet in small arms. Their improvement called for a projectile made up in 2 or more parts which fit the bore of the barrel and so constructed that the forward end of each of the parts in rear of the front one enters a cavity in the breech of the one forward of it, and it is so formed in relation to it that it separates from it after leaving the barrel of the gun and makes a slight deviation in its line of flight from the pursued by its predecessor, as hereafter more fully set forth. 3 is perhaps the most proper number of parts. Holy cow, if you're like me, that is some serious technical speak that can be a little hard to understand.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
So basically, what they were trying to do was create a bullet that was a nesting doll of sorts. You know, like the Russian nesting dolls that you see, except with bullets. The idea is that the different parts of the bullet would separate from one another, but only slightly, after having been fired, enabling one shooter to hit up to 3 targets, in theory. Their patent mentions that they wanted to create a projectile that would embody and realize the advantages of the well-known buck and ball of the smoothbore arm without the disadvantages of wildness of direction, shortness of flight, and intensity of recoil. Even though it seemed like a good idea at the time, history has gone on to show us that the Shaler Bullet wasn't well received. Some of this can be credited to the design itself. More can be credited in timing of the design in relation to the creation of repeating rifles, something Ira and Reuben cannot be blamed for, since they couldn't have foreseen the future. While examples have been dug up on a variety of Civil War battlefields, the Shaler Bullet was never standard issue for soldiers. Their design goes down in history as being just one of the many attempts to build a better bullet in the 19th century. Thanks for tuning into this episode of High Caliber History. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel, leave some likes and some comments. I would appreciate it, and we'll see you right here on the next episode.